Over the past 100 years, many psychiatrists have studied the phenomenon of people remembering facts from their previous lives. In their research, they discovered that this most commonly occurs in children aged between 3 and 7. Interestingly, most children forget these memories around the same time we tend to forget our earliest childhood memories, around the age of 6 or 7. Here are some studies that might prove that past lives and reincarnation are more than just religious stories. Hannah Mansour and Sarah Gainem. Hannah Mansour was born in Lebanon in the 1930s and married a police officer named Farid when she was 20. She gave birth to 2 girls, Layla and Galar. During her second pregnancy, Hannah had heart problems, but she decided to ignore her doctors and became pregnant for a 3rd time. In 1962, she gave birth to a son. During that time, she told her husband that she would be reincarnated and that she had much to share about her previous life. A year later, her health worsened, and she had to undergo surgery. She later traveled to Richmond, Virginia, where she passed away. Before her death, Hannah tried to reach her daughter Layla by phone, but never succeeded. 10 days after Hannah's death, Sarah Gainem was born. At only 16 months old, Sarah would pick up the phone and repeatedly say, "Hello, Layla." At that time, her family didn't understand what was happening, but as Sarah grew older, she was able to identify 13 people from her previous life family. The 2 families met, and Farid accepted Sarah as part of his own family. They remained in contact until Farid's death. Rashad Karim and Daniel Judy. On a sunny day in 1968, a car mechanic named Rashad Karim went for a drive with his friend Ibrahim. The 2 headed toward the military beach in Beirut, but unfortunately, the driver lost control of the car. Both men died instantly. A year later, a boy named Daniel Judy was born. The first word he ever said was, "Ibrahim." At the age of 2, Daniel constantly repeated that he wanted to go home, that his parents weren't his real parents, and that he didn't have a father because his father had died. He also claimed that his father's name was Naim. It turned out that Naim was the name of Rashad's father. While passing by the site of Rashad's crash with his mother, little Daniel said, "This is where I died." Years later, the 2 families met. Daniel recognized Rashad's sister as his own, even though he had never met her. He also knew that Rashad's favorite fruit was the banana. Rashad's family had stopped buying bananas altogether because they reminded them of him. Daniel still has a fear of cars due to the trauma from his past life. Ann Fisher and Marla Carlson. You've likely heard the tragic story of Ann Fisher, the innocent young girl who hid from the Nazis in an attic for years, only to be captured and executed in a concentration camp. A horrible story that reminds people of the horrors of World War II. As you probably know, Ann died in 1945 in the Bergen-Belsen camp. 9 years later, a girl named Marla was born. As soon as she started speaking, Marla claimed these weren't her real parents and this wasn't her home. During this time, she had recurring nightmares of men breaking down the attic door. Marla's parents dismissed the stories as imagination. As she grew older, Marla realized that Ann Fisher was a well-known historical figure and that talking about her memories made others uncomfortable. She decided to stay silent until the age of 10. During a visit to Amsterdam with her parents, Marla was able to find Ann's house without any directions. To her parents' astonishment, she knew the interior layout perfectly and led them directly to Ann's hiding place. Throughout her life, Marla Carlson struggled to overcome the phobias from her past life. Paul Gaultier and Peter Thielkamp. Peter Thielkamp didn't accept that he was the reincarnation of the famous artist Paul Gaultier until 2005. At the time, he was 55 years old, but strange experiences he couldn't explain had begun when he was a young boy. For no apparent reason, the phrase, "go gone," constantly echoed in his mind. Peter even said it out loud to cheer himself up or as a motivational phrase. Decades later, he made the connection to the name of the well-known painter. As a teenager, Peter began to paint and developed an interest in visual arts. His early drawings resembled Gautier's work, though Peter had never seen his paintings before. It was as if Gautier were remembering his own art. Throughout his life, Peter experienced events similar to those in the French artist's life. The process of realizing the deep connection between them was slow. As a painter himself, Peter found striking similarities between his art and that of Gautier. James Houston Jr. and James Lanning. On May 1, 2000, a 2-year-old boy had a nightmare. In his sleep, he screamed, "The plane is crashing. The plane is on fire. The boy can't get out." This boy's name was James Lanning. His nightmares recurred 5 times a week and he always shouted the same words. When his parents asked who the boy was and who shot down his plane, he replied that the boy was himself and that Japanese soldiers shot down the plane. He described the flag as a big red sun. This strange behavior prompted his parents to dig into Pacific War history. While reading a book chapter about Iwo Jima, the child said that was the place where he died in a previous life. After years of searching, his father discovered a pilot named James Houston, who belonged to the division stationed at Natoma Bay and died on March 3, 1945, in the Battle of Iwo Jima. When the young James met pilots who had witnessed Houston's crash, he was able to describe in detail exactly what had happened to the downed pilot. If this story touched your heart, if it made you stop and think, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And share it with someone who might need to hear it today. Not for me, but because just one soul might be saved through it. Thank you for watching. God bless you. Folded hands.